All right, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about a concept known as traceability. So, what is your understanding of traceability? What is traceability?
To know the source,
Sorry?
know the source where it came from.
Perfect. You want to identify a source from where it came from. So, in other words, you want to do a mapping saying, from where did this come from? You want to do a mapping, and that is traceability. So, now please don't disappoint me and think before you answer. The question is, what is the very forget agile? I'm mainly talking because traceability really has no value in agile, and I'll tell you why. I'm mainly talking about waterfall and RUP. And think before you tell me this. What is the very first type of requirement that is derived from the business? What is that type of requirement? What is it called? What is the requirement type? I'm waiting for an answer.
Pro- go- Goals?
Sorry? Forget the first type of a requirement. Can you tell me what are the different types of requirements that you are aware of?
And is it a new product or an upgrade?
No. I'm not talking about the project type. I'm talking about the requirement type. What are the different types of requirements that you are aware of?
Business requirement, functional requirement, and UI.
Great. So let me start typing here. Okay, first business requirement, functional requirement. What else?
UI.
Good. Use case is not a type of a requirement. Business rules is exactly not a type of requirement, but based on your business rules, you end up creating requirements, right? So now, what is the origination? Where does your functional requirement originate from? Where does your functional requirement originate from? Or let me ask you another question in a different way. Out of all these requirements, what is the very first requirement you get from the business?
Business requirement.
Thank you. So that is the answer. The very first type of a requirement you get is you get a business requirement. Now, what do you do with this business requirement? Once you get this business requirement, what do you do with this?
You convert that into functional requirements.
You convert that into functional requirements. So basically, I take this business requirement into a JAT session. And what are the things that I derive out of this business requirement? What are the things I can derive out of this business requirement in the JAT session? I can derive what are the business rules for this requirement? What are the functional requirements for this business requirement? What are the UI requirements? And if I'm doing a use case approach, what are the use cases related to this business requirement? Am I making sense? All right. So basically, from one business requirement, you may be able to derive 5 business rules. You may be able to derive 16 functional requirements, 10 UI requirements, 3 use cases from one business requirement. So imagine if you have about 25 business requirements, how many business rules will you have? How many functional requirements will you have? How many use cases will you have? You'll have lots and lots of rules, requirements, use cases. So what you want to do then is you want to do a mapping, and you want to map saying this business rule, this functional requirement, this use cases, they were all mapped, they were all derived from business requirement this, versus this rules, this requirements, this use cases were derived from this business requirements. You want to do a mapping saying what originated from whom. Is this making sense? And this concept is known as traceability. Any questions? So let us see how do we create traceability. So let's say I want to create a traceability between business requirement and business rules. So I simply will have business rule 1, 2, 3. I write my business rules in here, and on the top I can write my business requirement 1, business requirement 2, and so on. And what I want to do then is I want to create a matrix. So how do I show that if I want to show that my business rule 1 was derived from business requirement 3, what do I do? How do I show that? If I want to show that my business rule 1 was derived from business requirement 3, I simply go here, in the cell that intersects rule and requirement, and I put in an X. That's how I show what was derived from where. Does this make sense? So this is called traceability concept. Similarly, I can do another traceability between my business requirements and functional requirements. Make sense? So let me show you a full-blown traceability template. So let's say this is for business rules and business requirements. You could do a traceability between functional requirements and business requirements. You could do a traceability between use cases and business requirements. Ideally, you don't do this individual traceabilities, you just do one gigantic traceability, which says, these are your business requirements, your business rules, functional requirements, and UI requirements. So now, how is this traceability important? So if the SMEs comes back to me and they say that they want to make some change in business requirement 1, I simply highlight this. And I can definitely get a feel that if they change business requirement 1, what all could be impacted. Business rule 2 may or may not be impacted. Functional requirement 1 may or may not be impacted. Functional requirement 11 may or may not be impacted. And use case 1 may or may not be impacted. So that's what traceability is. Any questions? It helps us identify what will be impacted if something changes. All right, so let's write down the question. The question is, what is traceability? What is traceability and importance of traceability? All right, so the answer is traceability is mapping traceability is mapping a business rule or a functional requirement or a use case to the business requirement it was derived from.
Can you repeat that again?
To a business requirement, to a business requirement it was derived from. We'll now write down the advantage of traceability. Traceability helps identify Traceability helps identify the impacted Traceability helps identify the impacted business rule or a functional requirement or a use case with a change in with a change in a business requirement. All right, so that's traceability and the advantage of traceability. Now, why is traceability not important in Agile?
Because we don't use case in Agile.
It's not about use cases. I could do traceability between my product backlog and item and user story. But the thing is, your waterfall and RUP projects are real long and things keep getting changed and you want to keep a mapping. But in Agile, you're done in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, and there's no actual reason that you want to keep a connection of what originated from what. Because it's more like you're done with your release and you move on with the next release. And it's pretty dynamic. So you can pretty much make changes to anything and everything anytime. So it's not that much of a value when it comes to Agile. So now with this, I've covered everything that I wanted to cover with respect to business analysis. Now you know everything that I know of, that I've gained my experience or working as a business analyst for the last XYZ years. Now what I want to do is I want to bring everything in one perspective. So I want you to write this down. So I'm going to define everything that we've learned into a tight bucket. So your role as a BA is what when you work on waterfall and RUP projects versus what are the things you do when you're working on when you're working on when you're working on an agile project. So let's write down role of a BA, role of a BA in waterfall and RUP. Role of a BA in waterfall and RUP. Number one, define the scope of the project. Define the scope of the project by creating business requirements document. Number two, understand the as-is business. Understand the as-is business related related to the scope of the project. Next, for every for every business requirement, for every business requirement documented in the BRD, for every business requirement documented in the BRD, conduct JAT sessions, conduct JAT sessions to identify conduct JAT sessions to identify business rules, functional requirements, UI requirements, and use cases. Next, next point, you can then say, do one of the following two. Do one of the following two. Number one, create FRD plus add wireframes plus add activity diagram plus
Wait, can you please repeat that? Just the last line.
Sure. So I'll just say create FRD plus add wireframes plus add activity diagram plus add state diagram. So that's the first thing. The second option is, so this is OR, right? The second option is create use cases plus add active plus add use plus add wireframes plus add use case diagram plus add activity diagram plus add state diagram. All right, so that's your role as a BA in Waterfall and RUP that we've gone through. Anything that does not ring a bell? All right, so now let's write down role of a BA in Agile Scrum. Number one, understand as is business. Number two, conduct business prioritization meeting. Conduct business prioritization meeting to define the scope for next release. Next, conduct JAT session to identify conduct JAT sessions to identify business rules, functional requirements, and UI requirements. Next, document user stories plus add wireframe plus add activity diagram plus add state diagram. Next, conduct sprint planning meeting on first day of the sprint. Conduct sprint review meeting on the last day of the sprint. Conduct UAT during the last sprint. Document, next point, document release notes for every release. Next point, attend Scrum meeting on a daily basis. And the last point, attend retrospective on the first day of a new release. So that's everything you do from the point of view of a BA in Agile Scrum. All right, any questions I can answer?
Mito, um, the business prioritization meeting and jet session, we would do that at the same time, right?
So once the business prioritization meeting gets over, then you would know what are the features that they want next month. And after the meeting, you'll start with the JAT session. You cannot conduct JAT session until you know what they want next month.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, any questions on Agile Scrum? All right, I take that as a no. Thank you. So this completes everything that I wanted to talk about within business analysis.